Good afternoon, everyone. We will begin our meeting with a prayer from Councilwoman Cook and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Ballot.
Dear Lord, please teach us to be gentle. Remind us of the many ways you have shown gentleness to us. When we respond to others, help us see how you love them and died for them also. Convict us when we descend into mockery or hurtful speech. Show us how to stand for what is right without abandoning gentleness and respect. Teach us to speak the truth in love. Let our gentleness be evident, a clear sign that you are at work in our lives. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Cook and Mr. Ballard. We welcome you to the City Parish Council meeting. We, as your representatives on the Lafayette Consolidated Government, welcome your involvement and encourage your participation. This meeting is a public hearing. If you wish to address the council on any item on this agenda, please fill out the request form in the foyer. The request to address the council blue card must be filled out and submitted prior to the call of the agenda item, or you will not be given the opportunity to speak. If assistance is needed with submitting that request, staff is available to help. In the event a speaker has completed their comments prior to the expiration of their allotted 5 minutes, any remaining time shall be forfeited. If you have materials you wish to submit to the council, please give those to the council clerk, Ms. Veronica L. Williams, seated to my left in the middle. In an effort to allow everyone an opportunity to be heard, the 5-minute rule will be in effect. Speakers shall refrain from debating, personal attacks, and from making confrontational or derogatory comments. I'm requesting that the first row to my left be used for media only. Lastly, food and drinks are not allowed in the auditorium, and all phones and electronic devices shall be silenced from this point forward. I'm also requesting that anyone who approaches the council state their name and title for the official record. Meeting procedures are by resolution and not by Robert's Rules of Order. Documents, including the agenda, ordinances, resolutions, and minutes related to this meeting, are posted online at LafayetteLA.gov, or you may refer to the web address at the top of the agenda. The council does encourage your involvement and participation by volunteering for boards and commissions. If you're interested in finding out which board suits your interest, call 291-8800, or you may pick up a pamphlet at the door. Council Chair Naquin is unable to attend tonight's meeting. As Vice Chair of the Council, I will be presiding. I have a long list of items regarding tonight's agenda. First of all, item number 6, resolution number R063-2018, relative to the Lafayette Transit System bus transportation on Election Day, is being pulled on the advice of LCG Council. And that request was made by myself as the author of the resolution, and I would ask our legal counsel to share the information which they provided to me.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, because I've asked Mr. Todd Schwartzendruber to take a look at that in detail, I think it's probably best that he simply come to the podium and give you a brief explanation.
And please do make it brief. Thank you.
I will make this brief, definitely. Todd Schwartzendruber. Okay. I was asked to look at this issue on the resolution, and we came to 2 different issues that we discovered. The first has to do with the charter. The bus fares are set by ordinance. This would be a resolution. The ordinance does not provide for waiving of the bus fares, and so we felt that the resolution was not the appropriate way to waive bus fares. Internal, procedural, charter-based. The other one has to do with the Louisiana Constitution. It contains a prohibition against donating public funds, property, credits, so on and so forth. We looked at this under the rules of that, the quick case law and so forth, determined that in this case, LCG would not have a reasonable expectation of receiving at least equivalent value for what it was giving up, the bus fares. And so we felt that it would be best to not do it for the constitutional reason as well.
Thank you, sir. Just to note that those of you who may be attending tonight's meeting to address this particular resolution, it is no longer on the agenda. Therefore, if you wish to address it, you may do so during the public comment section of our agenda. Item number 10, ordinance number 112-2018, relative to amending the fiscal year 17-18 operating budget for the sale of the Buchanan Street parking garage. Finance has requested the ordinance be pulled indefinitely. Item 12, ordinance numbers 173-2018, relative to a cooperative endeavor agreement with the City Marshal's Office. Legal has proposed an amendment to substitute Mike Hill's name for Brian Pope's name in that agreement. Item 22, ordinance number 183-2018, relative to peddlers during Festivals International. Legal has requested the ordinance be pulled indefinitely to allow time for additional revisions. Item 25, ordinance number 186-2018, relative to treatment plant facilities located in LUS Subdivision. Legal has proposed an amendment to make reference to the fact that the existing system being donated also serves the Hamlet Subdivision and Westminster Academy. Item 26, announcement of a vacancy. Due to the input from judges and further legal information, it has been determined that an interim marshal appointment will be made at a later date. Thus, per my request, the interim marshal appointment announcement is being postponed and is being pulled from the agenda. Item 35, not going to be left much on the agenda. Item 35, ordinance 196-2018, relative to the fiscal year 18-19 parish budget amendments, is scheduled to be considered for final adoption during a special meeting on Thursday, November 1st, 2018 at noon. With that being said, please be advised that the council will be meeting during a special meeting at noon on Thursday, November 1st, to consider amendments to the parish budget. The first regular meeting of the month of November has been moved from November 6th to Monday, November the 5th, as the convening of a meeting or any other events at a polling location on an election day is prohibited. And the council clerk has asked me to remind the media that you are requested to stay behind the red lines on the carpets so as not to interfere with our cameras from Acadiana Open Channel or to obstruct administrators. And one final note, early voting is October 23rd through the 30th, except on Sunday from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. at 1010 Lafayette Street on the 3rd floor. Don't know how much is left on the agenda after all that, but we'll proceed. And the next item on the agenda is to call for any announcement from council members. Mr. Boudreau.
Thank you, Mr. Conk. I think Mr. Nycan did not want to leave you with too much responsibility, so they attempted to pull as many items as possible to make your evening easy.
And do less harm.
Absolutely. With that said, just want to acknowledge a couple of events this month and recognitions, first starting off with breast cancer awareness, as we have so many women in our community, in this state, in this country, who has defeated, still battling, or has defeated breast cancer in one way or another, and we just want to continue to empower them and lift them up in prayer, and just remind everyone to continue to get your checks, don't forget your self-checks, visit with your doctor, and be aware. And I just, in particular, would like to name Monica Boudreau, Brittany Boudreau, Donna Douillon, and Brenda Prejean as people very personal to me and who are survivors of breast cancer. In addition, the month of October, we also acknowledge domestic violence awareness and prevention. We want to reference you to the shelter's website. That's the Women's Shelter's website for events that are upcoming. I think there's an event in Girard Park tomorrow. But again, we just want to acknowledge this time and the wearing of the color purple to recognize this horrible activity that takes place in our community far too often, and just get people educated and know that there's help available. There are services that are available to both perpetrators and victims of this horrible act. And if you want to hit something, buy your punching bag, but keep your hands off of people. I just wanted to acknowledge those two very important educational type events during this month, and please don't take any of these lightly. Do whatever you can to support these events. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. Mr. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to also acknowledge another very important organization that's been around for 50 years. They're celebrating their 50-year anniversary. That's called Smile Community Action. They've been around for 50 years helping people. They also had a Head Start program. There are a lot of fantastic things in the community. They're also in New Iberia Parish, Lafayette Parish, and St. Martin Parish. So again, they are celebrating 50 years, the golden year. So everyone is invited, the listening audience and also the viewers. So come out and enjoy on October 29th. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to Mayor President Robideau for the executive report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have 3 proclamations. I'll go quick. The first one was requested by Liam Doyle and the UL Office of Disability, and it's a proclamation for the UL Beacon Club's Disability Awareness Week. Whereas Lafayette Consolidated Government recognizes and supports the efforts of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette's Beacon Club, which gives not only students with disabilities but also their family members the opportunity to come together and grow. Whereas we acknowledge that growth comes from everyone working together to better understand each other's unique perspective, while highlighting not only what makes a person different but also what makes them special. And whereas citizens with disabilities are entitled to the same rights and freedoms as any other citizen, including the right to dignity and respect, as they work to obtain their fullest physical, mental, social, vocational, and economic potential. And whereas UL Beacon Club strives to empower students with disabilities to find their voice and teaches the importance of advocating for themselves as well as others. And whereas UL Beacon Club continues to break down barriers, providing students the resources necessary to fulfill their desire to be a successful contributing member of their community. And whereas Lafayette Consolidated Government, as well as the Mayor President's Awareness Committee for Citizens with Disabilities, fully endorses and supports not only this week's efforts, but UL Beacon Club's mission of inclusion. Now, therefore, I, Joel Robideau, Mayor President of Lafayette Consolidated Government, do hereby proclaim the week of October 22nd through the 25th as UL Beacon Club's Disability Awareness Week. Is Liam here, or? Oh, you're here for the university?
I don't have it. My name is Sarah Kate Robla. I'm actually the Vice President of UL Beacon Club. And on behalf of all the members of Beacon Club and myself, I'd like to thank the Mayor, the Council, and the City of Lafayette for believing in us and our mission to educate others about the vast strengths of those in this community who do have disabilities and what they can contribute to the community. A special thank you to Liam Doyle for his support and his help throughout the semester. We are just getting off the ground again, so thank you to him. We couldn't do it without him. We couldn't be more excited for what's to come and what's to come in the next week for sure. And we hope to see you all on October 25th, which is next Thursday, at our Project Able, which is what we're calling our Disability Awareness Week, at our Project Able art show. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And also tomorrow in this auditorium is the award ceremony, the Disability Award Ceremony. So for those of you that want to attend at 1 o'clock tomorrow, we'll be having that here. Kathy Gilbert asked me to issue this proclamation for Plan Lafayette Week, whereas the people of Lafayette participated in a comprehensive planning process over a 2-year period to identify a unified community vision, and whereas the process involved thousands of citizens from all walks of life. And whereas the community process resulted in Plan Lafayette, a comprehensive plan that guides work to revitalize neighborhoods, refine government, re-envision natural resources, and reinvent the hub city. And whereas Plan Lafayette was adopted by the Planning Commission on June 10, 2014, and endorsed by the City Parish Council by resolution on July 1st, 2014, and whereas dozens of action items highlighted in the plan have been implemented, and whereas planning staff prepares and submits to the Planning Commission annual reports of progress on the plan's action items, and whereas the plan is not a static document, and every 5 years staff will undertake a major amendment to the plan, the next one being in 2019, and whereas the American Planning Association celebrates October as National Community Planning Month, where the role of planning in creating the spaces we love is promoted, and whereas various organizations have come together to celebrate the success of Plan Lafayette and identify critical next steps through Plan Lafayette Week, a week's worth of events in support and implementation of the comprehensive plan. Now therefore I, Joel Robideau, Mayor President of Lafayette Consolidated Government, do hereby proclaim the week of October 29th through November the 2nd, 2018 as Plan Lafayette Week in the city parish of Lafayette, Louisiana, and urge all citizens to join me during Plan Lafayette Week in participating in the events to celebrate and further implement Lafayette's comprehensive plan. Is Kathy here? And finally, Mr. Chairman, there's a proclamation that was requested by Councilwoman Cook for the National Red Ribbon Week. Whereas the Seymour DeFair Foundation is excited to announce the creation of a new statewide drug awareness and prevention campaign titled Louisiana is Better with Me 100% Drug-Free. And whereas Kiki's Red Ribbon Celebration is a program based on the legacy of Kiki Camarena, a DEA special agent who died in 1995 after being kidnapped by drug gangs in Mexico. The mission of this campaign is to present a unified and visible commitment toward the creation of a drug-free world. And whereas the Seymour DeFair Foundation has developed the Seymour Salutes Kiki's Red Ribbon Celebration 2018 program for Louisiana schools and is available to all Louisiana elementary and middle schools free of charge, and whereas this drug education program is designed to introduce the concept of helpful medicines, harmful and deadly drugs, avoidance, encouragement, and first-use prevention or discouragement, all while seamlessly crossing within their existing curriculum. And whereas available in 2019, Seymour Says Don't Be a Bird Brain, Avoid Drugs program was created to utilize the advances of medical research and scientific studies to discourage drug abuse at elementary and middle school levels. And whereas the Seymour DeFair Foundation and Seymour Salutes Kiki's Red Ribbon Celebration will facilitate school and community engagement across Louisiana to keep children and families safe and drug-free. Now therefore I, Joel Robideau, Mayor President of Lafayette Consolidated Government, do hereby proclaim the week of October 23rd through 31st, 2018 as National Red Ribbon Week, recognizing the local push to address the drug abuse issue in our community.
Ms. Cook, do you have comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor President. Yes, I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for the support and proclamation of this program. There are several ambassadors that we have in our community. Chief Aguilard was one of them. Sheriff Garber was one of them. We had Kathleen Blanco on board as another ambassador, and also in the audience tonight, Michelle Richard, who is with the Knowledge Effect, who is also another organization that helps promote substance abuse education. And so I really appreciate you doing this proclamation, and I'll ask Michelle to come on up for a picture with you. Okay.
That's all for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda, comments from the public. V, do we have any requests to make comments to the council?
We do.
This portion of our meeting is an opportunity to make your voice heard before the council, the administration, and the public. This is a time to speak about topics that are not included as agenda items this evening. As I noted earlier, requests to make comments specific to an agenda item should be made prior to the call for that item by completing the request to address the council blue card. Please, we request that all matters regarding specific city parish employees be directed to the administration and that it not be addressed at this public forum. We as a council have a concern for the privacy and the protection of government employees. With that said, however, if your concern is not resolved in either an expeditious or satisfactory fashion, there are other avenues which can be pursued, and we ask that you follow up with the council office. Also, confrontational statements and/or threats will not be tolerated. We ask that you conduct yourself in a civil manner and with the same courtesy that you would expect of others, and as usual, the 5-minute rule will be applied. First public comment, please.
First speaker of 5, William Thiel.
Hello, my name is William Thiele. I live in District 6, and I would like to thank this council and our mayor president for giving me a few minutes of everybody's time to talk to you about an issue that's very important to me and very important to the future of the city of Lafayette and to the parish of Lafayette. I come to you today as a representative of a nonpartisan group called Fix the Charter. We are a reflection of Lafayette Parish. We're black and white, young and old, Republicans and Democrats. We live throughout the parish in Broussard, Karen Crow, Dusson, Scott, Youngsville, and throughout the unincorporated areas. We are bringing awareness to a proposal on the ballot to amend the Lafayette Home Rule Charter. All Lafayette Parish voters will vote on this proposal during the December 8th election, which is less than 2 months away. So what does this amendment do? The amendment replaces this current 9-person city parish council who are elected by everyone in the parish, whether you live in the city or you don't, and replaces it with a 5-person City of Lafayette Council elected by the city residents, and a 5-person Parish of Lafayette Council elected by everyone in the parish. What does this accomplish exactly? In short, it restores the city of Lafayette's autonomy to make its own decisions, while providing Lafayette Parish with its very own council focused on its issues. And we are in need of this now. Big decisions need to be made on the city side regarding LUS, the old federal courthouse, revitalizing Four Corners, and the whole University Avenue corridor. Meanwhile, on the parish side, budget problems, drainage, and roads all need attention. As hard as this council may try, and you try so hard, you cannot serve the needs of both the city of Lafayette and the parish of Lafayette at the same time. This combined city-parish council form of government simply doesn't work. Also, this form of representation is un-American. It's fundamentally unfair, and it's a bad way to govern. It's time for the city of Lafayette to adopt the same form of government that Broussard, Karen Crow, Dusson, Scott, and Youngsville all have. Its own city council, elected by its city's residents, focused on its city's issues. So what is this amendment not? This amendment is not a tax measure. Whether this amendment passes or fails on December 8th, nobody's taxes are affected. It simply creates a form of government that's fair for everybody. This amendment doesn't increase the size of government. This current 9-person council is being replaced by 2 5-person councils. The 1 additional councilman is immaterial. Furthermore, there's no new clerical staff will be needed to support 1 more councilman. This amendment is not deconsolidation. The Lafayette Consolidated Government, LCG, remains unchanged. In addition, our combined mayor-president remains unchanged. Finally, this amendment does not personally benefit any current councilman. All term limits are fully respected by this amendment. We are not bound by the decisions of the past. In fact, we are obligated to act in the best interests of our city and our parish. We cannot continue to cling to this combined city-parish council when we all know it doesn't work. It's our responsibility to fix this for generations to come. I applaud this council for voting 7-2 in favor of this amendment, and I encourage the citizens of Lafayette Parish to match their enthusiasm and vote on December 8th as they did to amend the Lafayette Home Rule Charter. Vote for fair representation on December 8th. Vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keeley. Next speaker, please.
Jerry Eubanks, and he will be followed by Patricia Carter.
Good evening, and thank you guys. Thank the council, our mayor, parish president, and everyone here today hearing me out for a few minutes. I've also come to speak regarding the amendment to the Home Rule Charter. I want to thank the council again for having the courage to taking these first steps and putting this out to the voters. To that end, I'm going to talk about why I think this is so critical for both the parish and the city, and why we all need to get out and vote on December 8th and vote yes. I know there was a similar proposition already in 2011. In fact, that wasn't long after I'd moved to Lafayette. It was interesting, but at the time, I wasn't so aware of the importance. However, in some ways, I'm grateful for that. I think this is a better, more forward-acting change. This isn't throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It's taking what has worked for Lafayette, consolidating administrative and bureaucratic costs, and fixing what hasn't worked. So what hasn't worked for us? We have a parish government that is on the verge of a crisis. A crisis I think is often overshadowed by the much larger goings-on of the city government. Just this year, we're facing a massive budget shortfall in the parish, where to afford to fund constitutionally required commitments, there will be painful cuts to crucial services throughout the parish. And sometimes I'm not even sure how much the parish realizes that with everything that goes on the city government side. This combined with the council has allowed us, the combined council has allowed us to kick the can on this for too long. It's muddied waters when we are looking at this, and it's made it difficult to hold representatives accountable for what's going on with the parish. An independent parish council would be focused on these issues and more, making it clear to the voters the state of our parish and the decisions that affect it every day. Another issue facing both our city and parish is that our representatives are called every day to wear two conflicting hats. While there will always be contention on what is best for your constituents, I'm sure you all know all too well the struggles of making deals and concessions that you have to convince yourself are best for both the city and the parish simultaneously. Unfortunately for Joel, this isn't going to make it any easier on his front, but two councils will allow you guys to negotiate in good faith on all the propositions that come before you. Lastly, and most importantly, this is about fair representation in Lafayette. Isn't this why we broke away and formed our own country, for the rights to represent ourselves? Taxes levied against the citizens of Lafayette City should be voted on only by the representatives of those residents. This is the same kind of representation that every other municipality in the parish enjoys, and it's the only thing that makes sense. The resolution might not be perfect, but it's a big step in the right direction, and making these steps is the whole goal of the democratic process. I think we all know too well, just in the last few months, some of these issues have come in front of you guys. Dealing with the roadblocks on the federal courthouse, seeing the mess that has been the deal with the parish garage, the constant drainage issues in the parish. I think you guys are doing the right thing here, and I think you guys have done a lot of work to take the time to be thoughtful on this amendment, not growing our government, not extending term limits. I think this is a big step forward, and I hope everybody gets out there, we get some more information out there, and people show up and vote for this. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Carter?
Patricia Carter, followed by Alicia Chasson.
My name is Patty Carter, and I'm a citizen of Lafayette, I'm calling, wanted to come to you today to talk about the item that was pulled from the agenda, the resolution regarding use the usage of city buses for transporting people on Election Day. And I felt that this was very improper, that the city does not need to delve into any type of political activity, no matter what side of the agendas or candidates that are running for office. And I like that there was clarification from legal that according to the city charter and the state, that this was not to be allowed. We just have to be careful in these times that our city council does not get involved. Even though you were trying to help people, there are plenty of private organizations that can help people get to the polls without involving the taxpayers' money. And I thank you for pulling that. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Alicia Chasson, followed by Michael Walden.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Chasson, and I am a resident of District 4, and I am the spokesperson for the Lafayette League of Women Voters. The League is a nonpartisan, volunteer political advocacy organization. We encourage citizens to become informed about issues and vote to make their voice heard. We take policy positions regarding good governance and individuals' rights. We are devoted to making democracy work. You might find out more about our organization and join at lwv-lafayette.org. We have several members in the audience tonight. I am speaking tonight about the pulled resolution that would provide free public transportation on November and December election days. The League of Women Voters believes voting is a fundamental citizen right that must be guaranteed. We can all agree that voter turnout in our parish has been abysmal. As we all know, there are many factors which lead to people not exercising their right to vote. The League's mission is to strengthen democracy and empower voters. We are always looking for ways to eliminate barriers to voter participation. We publish nonpartisan voter guides to help explain the proposed amendments and taxes on the ballot. We explain what a yes vote means, and we explain what a no vote means. We do not tell them which way to vote. We are in the process of translating that voter guide into Spanish. We hold candidate forums for local elected offices. We want citizens to make an informed choice and vote however they choose. The proposal for free buses on election days is not a partisan issue. We want every single eligible voter to vote. We wish there was public transportation outside the city so that it could be offered for free as well. Neither the League nor LCG are endorsing candidates or attempting to influence votes on taxes or amendments. We saw an opportunity to show Lafayette citizens that their local government encourages voter participation and understands that every vote matters. The League of Women Voters was founded 98 years ago and has remained a respected institution that values nonpartisanship, informed citizenry, civil dialogue, and evidence-based issues. Our local league is made up of Lafayette Parish residents who care deeply about their community. We want to see Lafayette government reflect the values, diversity, and compassion of the citizens who live here. We also value government transparency. In the advertiser report announcing that this resolution was being pulled, Bruce Conk is quoted as saying that Jeff Landry said he considered it a violation of the Louisiana Constitution and he would legally challenge it if we moved forward. As the spokesperson of the League, I had requested more information from Mr. Conk about the reasoning that Attorney General Landry used to make his decision. And without knowing that specific section of the Louisiana Constitution that AG Landry is basing his decision on in advance, the League was unable to offer a specific rebuttal. I cannot blame Mr. Conk for pulling this resolution when the state attorney general says he will challenge it. We are in contact with our state and National League representatives, and I will ask that the legal team, that the legal reasoning be emailed to me so that the League can write a public statement that will be published when complete. The League exists to fight for good government and actively engage citizens, and we're here for it. Thank you.
Thank you. And just by way of clarification, my decision to pull the resolution was based on legal advice from our counsel. It was coincidental about the same time Mr. Landry was trying to contact me on the phone, and he confirmed what was the opinion from our legal counsel. And that's why I decided to pull the resolution. Thank you. Next, please.
Michael Walden. And as he comes up, Ann Burris, she did not wish to speak, but she signed in to support the transit service on Election Day. Following Mr. Walden's comment, he's the final speaker.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Michael Walden. I live in District 3 on Seville Boulevard. I'm getting pretty old now. I was a boy more than half a century ago. And in my mind, at least, that's the time when America was great. where I grew up, as a child, I saw the encouragement of voting by everyone in our community. I lived just down the street from the Democratic Precinct Committeeman and just across the street from the Republican Precinct Committeeman. Now, the Republican Precinct Committeeman was retired and he had more time. My father was a long-term Democrat and everybody knew it. He was a coal miner and had been a member of the Coal Miners Union. And yet, our precinct committeeman for the Republican Party across the street would come over and see that my father either got to the polls or got an absentee ballot to vote. That's the way people looked at voting when I was a boy. The idea of making it difficult to vote was considered one of the most un-American things that you could ever consider. We would have said, well, do you think you live in Russia? So that's the way things used to be. Now, I understand that here, maybe the traditions were different. Poll taxes were applied to keep poor people from voting. Perhaps there was voter suppression as the common thing that was done here in Lafayette. I don't know. I didn't grow up here. I hope that's not true. But this kind of voter suppression is wrong. And we effectively have voter suppression right now. It is hard to get to the polls for a lot of people. We don't have enough polling places, and early voting is virtually impossible for many people. You put early voting on an upper floor of a building, people have to queue up on the stairwell. I've seen elderly people on that stairwell about to pass out, waiting to do their early voting. What kind of a place is this? We need to encourage voting. We need to have more locations for early voting. If you can't transport the people to the polls and they say that's illegal, then we need more polling places. There should be no polling places not within easy walking distance of everybody's house. That's the way it was when I was a boy. That's the way it should be now.
Thank you, Mr. Walden. And Ms. Chasson, you had asked that I provided the opinion from our legal counsel. That was communicated to me verbally this morning. I did not receive it in writing until late this afternoon, so I apologize for not providing that. Any other comments from the public? Okay, moving on to resolutions. I would remind everyone that item 6 has been pulled indefinitely. Jeremy, would you read item 7?
Of the Lafayette City Parish Council endorsing the Lafayette Public Utilities Authority resolution, respectfully requesting that the Lafayette Mayor President delay recruitment and selection of a permanent director of LUS Utilities, and further request delay appointment of a new communication systems director until such time as the LPUA and the Lafayette City Parish Council have considered and acted on the expected third-party LUS management contract proposal.
Motion, please. Moved by Mr. Boudreau, second. Second by Ms. Cook. Any council discussion? Seeing none. I'm sorry, Mr. Boudreau.
You don't have an amendment for this?
Not on this one.
Not on this one?
No, it would be endorsing the LPUA resolution as approved.
Okay. We took action at the LPUA level, and I thought you would be able to explain it to the entire council and to the public about exactly what is taking place. And we talked about some clarification since we have had a briefing on third-party management proposals and the interest level that has grown. I think as the resolution was originally written, it named one of those proposals, namely NextGen, and the fact that we've now received, I think, 2 letters of interest or intent. I think you would address that. And then in one of the whereases, we initially asked the Mayor President in that discussion at budget time, we had initially asked him to, slow down, take your time, let's do this right. and now we're saying declare something today. So that's what I wanted the clarity on. If you could explain that, please.
We amended the resolution as was outlined in the agenda for this meeting to include a stipulation requesting the mayor-president to publicly state his intent as to whether or not he will pursue third-party management of LUS. And the purpose of that amendment, which was offered by me, was that we need to know what is the intent for the future of LUS. If we are not to pursue a third-party management contract, then let's move on to identifying how much compensation would it take to attract the most capable, most experienced person to run LUS as is possible. But at this point, we aren't able to move forward until we resolve the issue as to whether or not, indeed, the mayor-president is proposing consideration of a third-party management contract. And that was the significant change to the resolution during the LPUA meeting this afternoon.
And Mr. Acting Chair, there's a copy of your resolution, the amended resolution, in everyone's folder, the LPUA resolution.
And as far as delaying the appointment of an LUS director, part of that resolution indicated that we have the go-ahead from Mr. Adam Marcantel, who heads up the Civil Service Division, that he was not going to enforce, for lack of a better word, the 6-month timeline on how long Mr. Jeff Stewart could serve as the interim director. To paraphrase what he said, I'm not going to enforce that. Take as long as you can to get the job done. And that's what was part of the resolution adopted by LPUA this afternoon. I think those were the key points of that resolution. Seeing no other comments from the council, do we have any public comments?
Mr. Scheffler had signed in for number 6, but he said LUS, so I'm assuming he might want to speak to number 7, this item. Harold Scheffler. Number 6 was pulled, and that was a transportation election issue.
Mr. Scheffler, that item was pulled from the agenda, so no public comment is allowed at this time.
But I can't address this issue.
You may address this item, yes, sir.
I think, we're at a point that if this goes in, you can hire a director, as I understand it. This action will allow you to hire a director at a full pay.
This resolution is requesting the mayor-president to delay appointment of a permanent director of utilities pending the outcome of the third-party management proposal.
Oh, all right. And since that's, I would like to address that issue, but that's not covered by this item. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. No other comments? Then call for a vote from the council to adopt the resolution.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9? Motion to adopt is approved.
Jeremy, item number 8, please.
Resolution 65, 2018, a resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council certifying that the Parish of Lafayette has complied with the requirements of the State of Louisiana Off-System Bridge Replacement Program.
Motion, please. Moved by Mr. Boudreau, seconded by Mr. Lewis. Any council discussion? None. Any public comment? None. Call for the vote, please.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5? District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9? District 2? Motion to adopt is approved.
The next item on the agenda is for reports and/or discussion items. Would you read, Jeremy, please?
Update on next-gen Bernhard proposal for LUS management.
Okay, this discussion item was requested by Mr. Bellard, so Mr. Bellard, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, I think we're going to have a brief presentation, if I'm correct or not. We can go ahead with the presentation first, and if any councilman has questions, we can do that afterwards. That's all I have for right now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, gentlemen, as our previous meeting on this issue, both mics are live.
Thank you for asking us back here. I guess it's been about a week ago. In an effort to keep, at the council's request, abbreviated. Like my dad said, I never heard a bad short speech. So we'll keep it to about 20 minutes. I know it's an important item, and we might go a little bit over. But my name again is Jim Bernhardt, Managing Partner, Bernhardt Capital Partners. Julius.
Hi. My name is Julius Bedford, Associate, Bernhardt Capital Partners.
Yeah, Ron DiGregorio, Operating Partner. Monster Docking, Operating Partner.
Jeff Eucness, Managing Director.
Jeff Bodier, also a Director. Council, thank you very much once again for this opportunity to briefly summarize our proposal regarding the management of the Lafayette utility system by NextGen. We've just introduced ourselves briefly. Slide, please. And as we discussed in detail last week, this team that we are proposing to work in partnership with the management of LUS constitutes over a century of experience in managing and operating utility companies. And when I say that, I speak of the day-to-day operation and management and directing employees of utilities. In the case of Ron and Jeff, that includes Exelon, which is the utility in the United States that serves more customers than any other utility. In the case of Foster, who happens to be a lifelong resident of Louisiana, that includes also some of the largest utilities, both regulated and unregulated in the United States. And in my case, also a lifelong resident, it includes Louisiana utilities, NRG and New Roads, and CLECO in Pineville. And over my years, I have had the pleasure and privilege of working and living for many years in Lafayette myself. Our jobs at these utilities was to improve the performance and the customer service of those private utilities. And what we're proposing is to do the same with LUS. And in connection therewith, we were asked to provide to Lafayette an assessment of the current state of LUS. Slide, please. So, over the past, LUS has been a utility much like many traditional utilities. A very simple business model of running generators, sending it through transmission and distribution wires to end user customers in what was at that time a pretty simple business model with few regulatory risks. The generation was state-of-the-art for the time, and LUS has done a very good job of managing and running the assets that is traditionally owned. And where are we today? Well, the market has changed dramatically. The power industry and the entire model of how power companies and utilities in general are run has changed dramatically from traditional models. And as a result of those changes, LUS's power is now managed by 94% of that power that is delivered to LUS's customers is managed by outsiders. It's a totally different power market. That traditional generation fleet now constitutes aging technology that has the environmental challenges associated with coal-fired power. You're facing an audit by the Public Service Commission on certain fiber charges, and you're facing an order from the Environmental Protection Agency to address a number of deficiencies in the wastewater system. But even with these challenges, it doesn't mean LUS is not a valuable asset, and it's not an extremely important asset to the citizens of Lafayette. We believe that with our partnership, we can make that asset even more valuable. Slide. And so we're much more concerned with the future than with the past or the present. We want to invest further in your asset. We want to give you the opportunity to recycle that asset, as we state, and turn that into money and to relieve you from debt so you can make the investment in other needed infrastructure in Lafayette, which is the basic premise of the proposal, which would be fine if we could just maintain the status quo of LUS and give you the economic benefit to the city. But we believe our partnership will make LUS a more valuable asset than it is today. And in the future, you'll have a utility with the lowest competitive rates, state-of-the-art digital customer service. You will have a top industry-leading safety record. You'll have a rehabilitated water system. And you will have leading state-of-the-industry employee development, compensation, and career plans. We also see our partnership as going well beyond simply NextGen and the employees of LUS. We also see huge opportunity to partner with UL, who is already establishing itself as a center of excellence with cyber technologies, with big data, with smart city infrastructure, and renewable generation, all of which are key components to the future of the utility business and which make LUS the prime platform to launch those technologies. Slide, please. Our partnership is not a sale or a lease of the utility. You will always own and control, ultimately, your assets. It is your utility. What we are proposing is a 40-year partnership with LUS's employees to improve those assets. We cannot say enough that all LUS employees will retain your civil service jobs, pay, and benefits. That is an absolute commitment. If a civil service position needs to be filled, it will be filled with a civil service employee following civil service rules. We will be accountable for the performance and the management of LUS. We will provide the financing so that we can invest in the system without the city having to use more bond capacity and city resources to continue to run the utility. We will maintain competitive rates. With all of this, as has been the case with our entire proposal, we will provide complete transparency. We will continually report to you on what we call key performance indicators, which are absolutely objective measures of our performance, and upon which you can determine if we are properly performing our obligations under the agreement. Most importantly, LPUA, LCG, the City of Lafayette will continue to have the same power and governance that it always has had over LUS, including the authority to set rates. Slide. So when we approach this as NextGen, there are three guiding principles that affect every decision that we make. And upon these three pillars is how we structure the arrangement and how we view every aspect of what we deliver. The first is to improve customer service. The second is to power LUS employee success. And the third is to deliver economic benefits to the city as a whole. So let me touch upon that first pillar, improving LUS customer experience. Slide, please. So we know that rates are critically important. And so we make a commitment to lower rates immediately, to lower the bills that residential electric customers will pay for the first 3 years of the agreement, which will bring us through 2021. That's to demonstrate our commitment to keeping bills low. During that 3 years, we will execute upon a series of identified strategic initiatives to continue to keep bills low beyond 2021 and to further invest and improve the performance and customer service of LUS. On the left side, we've discussed these in much detail in our last meeting and in our papers that we've submitted, but this is just a handful of some of the cost-saving measures that we've already identified to keep bills low. Let me emphasize here that this does not include headcount reductions or elimination of LUS employees. To the contrary, we want to reduce the money that LUS is spending outside of the utility for other parties to manage its services, and we want to bring that back into LUS and have LUS employees perform those services. We also want to invest in those things on the right side, as well as many other things that are necessary in today's world to deliver the type of service that customers are expecting from utilities going forward. It's become much more than just a game of keeping your generators running. It's become a game of what the utility of the future will look like. So next slide, please. Lafayette has already shown its vision in several ways to demonstrate that this is a city with its eyes on the future. It's being named as one of the few gigabit cities. It's international recognition in which you've done with LUS Fiber. In UL, which I cannot say enough about the leadership it is showing with regard to technology. You have clearly set a stake in the ground to establish technology as a diversifying driver of your future city. What we are proposing is to help you bring your utility up to speed with that vision of the future. Affordable renewable resources. So Dr. Zappi and Dr. Chambers, who I've spent a good bit of time with over at UL, already are doing extensive work at the Center for Energy Efficiency and Sustainability. And these are projects which can directly benefit LUS with the right partnership established. Matthew Delcom and his team at the Center for Business and IT has a leading program that is bringing together universities and private corporations from all over the world to roll out smart city projects, cybersecurity, a cybersecurity center of excellence, and big data technology. Having CGI here is a perfect example of how important big data is to the future. Utilities are at the very center of these technologies. UL is at the very center of these technologies, and for that reason, LUS should be at the very center of these technologies. We believe that with our resources, our financial resources, our expertise, our team, and our industry experience can help you form those partnerships and change LUS into the model of U.S. municipal utilities of the future. So I'm now going to ask Jeff Eucness to talk about those two other pillars of our commitment to LUS.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to again present to the city of Lafayette tonight. With Regarding the employees of LUS, I'd like to spend a few minutes discussing how this proposed partnership will affect or not affect them, some of which are here tonight, many of which we hope are watching at work or at home. Next slide, please. First and foremost, as my colleague Jeff said, you retain your jobs, your pay, your benefits in the civil service status of your job. You retain your years of service toward the retirement opportunity. We'll work with the city to improve your benefits and your pay. Secondly, we recognize the anxieties that this type of a situation can introduce to your lives. With regard to our promise of job security, we know you don't know us. You've never heard of NextGen. You have a right to be skeptical. We know this because collectively our management team has been through several utility mergers and management partnerships. And we're executives and former line workers that have led significant integrations of those mergers and partnerships. So to be able to even begin to build that trust, we need to be on the ground listening and observing how you deliver reliable service with customer service and customer satisfaction. We need to consistently communicate with you to remove surprises. Know that on day one of this type of partnership, your job, your responsibilities, and the processes involve minimal change to you. But after day one, we start to work together on solutions to the big problems that my colleague Jeff outlined. We'll start every day in every meeting with a focus on safety. You go home as healthy as you arrived. You'll be invested in through development and training. All management positions are designed to be replaced from within when that manager chooses to retire, not externally. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about how the governance around this partnership would work. This is an illustration that depicts the relationship of the city, the LPUA, the mayor-president, the employees of LUS with respect to NextGen. First note, as my colleague Jeff mentioned, the LPUA has the same ultimate authority over rates as they do today. NextGen cannot unilaterally determine what to charge for electricity, water, or wastewater services. Rather, as it exists today, LUS and NextGen bring the justification for those rates to you for your approval, rejection, or modifications going forward. Second, the mayor-president and LPUA have approval authority over the individuals NextGen would bring forth for the positions of utility director and finance director. It's our proposal that he or she would be nominated by NextGen as an employee of NextGen for your approval. Furthermore, you'll have the authority to direct us to remove that person in the future. Third, NextGen and the utility director will provide standardized and routine reporting on a variety of key performance indicators or KPIs. We'll supplement that with consistent communication on progress towards those strategic initiatives as well as the employee engagement activities. In all, through delegation of management authority, NextGen in partnership with the LUS employees ensure proper operation and management of the system while adhering to the governance of the LPUA over rates and the governance of the LPUA and mayor with respect to the key management positions. Next slide, please. Let's talk about the details of the offer. Next slide, please. First, $140 million of cash up front. It's for the city to use any way it sees fit. It is not earmarked or designated for reinvestment in the utility or water systems that you'll continue to own. It could be leveraged. We think another $350 to $400 million could be borrowed with this cash infusion, potentially over $500 million for the city to use. Secondly, we pay off the debt raised by LUS against the assets of the utility systems. The city no longer has a liability against the utility assets that you do continue to own. Third, We recognize how valuable the funding LUS has provided and is expected to continue to provide to the city. We commit to at least $23 million a year for the entire 40-year partnership. Furthermore, the payment is structured as a percentage of base utility revenues. It's unlike today, where a formula involving revenues, less expenses, less debt servicing costs determines if there will be a contribution in lieu of taxes from LUS to the city. NextGen will accept the risk for managing expenses and remove that risk from the city's ability to receive these annual payments. Fourth, as outlined by my colleague, we commit to an average 10% reduction in residential electric bills for the first 3 years of this partnership. We evaluated that the average 2017 residential bill was about $1,300 a year. This credit equates to about $130 for each of the 55,000 residential customers on the LUS system. Fifth, NextGen and the city have aligned incentives to bring new customers to the system. This is not about increasing the ILOT. This is about sharing in revenues. If growth in base revenues exceeds 2.1% over a 3-year period, we share 50-50 in that revenue growth. The cap at $64 million over the term of our partnership. Finally, and to reiterate, Lafayette retains ownership of its utilities assets. It retains ownership over the rates that NextGen can charge for these services. Next slide, please. Now, it's our intention that the benefits we deliver to Lafayette don't end at this $1.3 billion package. Rather, it's our intention that's only the beginning of the economic development opportunity in the city. Like I said last week, there's over 2,000 municipal electric utilities and water cities throughout the United States. In the Southeast alone, there are over 400. In Louisiana, there are 21 public utilities serving their municipalities. We've had conversations with several of them. The structure we're offering, Lafayette First, is resonating, and these cities are interested in hearing more. Our target is to establish partnership with 50 of them. If Lafayette decides to be the cornerstone of this new industry, we'll build and employ for that headquarters right here in the city. We'll hire 400 employees to manage that business, and we expect it to achieve Fortune 500 status. Dr. Richardson of LSU and the Lafayette Economic Development Authority have estimated its presence would lead to another $3 billion in economic development and growth potential for a total opportunity of over $4 billion to the city to consider with this offer. Next slide, please. Finally, thank you again for the opportunity to present this partnership to the city of Lafayette, a partnership that enables the city to retain ownership of your assets, a partnership that enables the LPUA to retain governance over your rates for electric and water services, a partnership that enables LUS employees to retain their civil service jobs and benefits, a partnership that enables Lafayette to realize the value of the asset it has built, and a partnership for us at NextGen that provides the opportunity to collaborate with a forward-looking city and administration willing to embrace innovation. So we look forward to your questions, and again, we'll welcome any opportunity to explain our proposal again in the future.
Mr. Billard, you still have the floor.
Once again, thank you all for coming. One of the questions I had, and I think you might have answered it, I wanted to know the term of the management agreement. I think you said it's 40 years. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Just throwing it out there, say y'all come in, y'all don't like us, we don't like you. What is the breakup of the agreement? How does someone get out of it? Can you get out of it? Has that been thought of?
You know, certainly in those details will be worked out. We won't have those finite details to work out with the council yet.
So that would be?
You know, we've gone a long way on delivering a proposal that is the most transparent proposal we've ever delivered in front of anybody in the world who wants to look at what it is. We're not saying we want an executive session to talk about pricing or anything else. Heck, I was coming in, it's on a billboard as we come in today. So those details will be worked out. Certainly, there'll be an exit strategy, but I can't imagine not liking you. So I think we'll like each other.
And another thing, and I might have, it's my first time seeing this, when you said the 50-50 split, was that on profit with the 64 million cap, or did I totally miss that?
Yeah, sorry to not be clear. So if base revenues exceed 2.1% growth over a 3-year period, we'll split the revenue growth with you 50-50.
And then one last thing, and I don't know, it might go back to your deal. How much money, and this is just from constituents and from my personal opinion, you're a private entity, how and how much money do you intend to make? And I know you can't really, it's a loaded question, and I get it. But what I'm saying is...
No, it's not a loaded question. It's a fair question.
Okay.
We plan on making 9 to maybe 10.5% return on our investment if things work out right. If things work out right, you know. It depends on how much we're able to lower costs in the future, bringing in other utilities to fees our overall costs. That's our plan. You know, I've been with companies many times, the Shaw Group, Brown and Root, and our plans usually work, but that could be something else. And that's before taxes.
Got you. And we talked about lowering the residential rates. What about the commercial rates?
Let me just say one more thing on that. The average utility, CLECO and Entergy, has a greater return than that in Louisiana, their percent of return, just to let you know. We haven't looked at utility rates for commercial. It's a lot more complex than residential. We're going to look at those. A lot of them have special allocations, special deals, so it's difficult to put that in the proposal at this time.
Okay, I'll hold any other questions. Let any other council members?
I don't see any. Thank you, Mr. Bellard. I don't see any other council members requesting time for the moment. However, I'll make a couple of comments, and repeating what I said when the briefing was conducted last week by the LPUA. I cannot overstate that this is not an action item on the Lafayette City Parish Council or for the Lafayette Public Utilities Authority. In fact, neither of these bodies initiated the request for the proposal. This was the result of the mayor-president signing a non-binding agreement with the Bernhardt Capital Group, now referenced as NextGen, to explore third-party contracting for LUS management. As we made note earlier, the LPUA has adopted a resolution which in part requests the mayor-president to give us a public commitment as to what are his intentions in pursuing either this proposal from NextGen or any other proposal for third-party management. If we are not going to proceed, then we need to look at what will it take for us to get the best possible candidate to run LUS in the future. You folks spent a lot of time talking about retention of employees under civil service. Mr. Marcantel, would you come up front, please? Adam Marcantel is the director of our civil service department. One of the advantages that we had from hearing this presentation before is to ask some follow-up questions. And I met with Mr. Marcantel and I specifically asked him, will civil service employees be allowed to work under a private entity? Mr. Marcantel?
Very simple answer is no. Civil service employees by charter, we talk a lot about LUS being a business. LUS is also a chartered department of Lafayette Consolidated Government. And when civil service is also a chartered department, establishes civil service positions, those positions exist in service to Lafayette Consolidated Government. I saw the chart. It's very good. I'm very interested in the proposal. But the fact is that the chart shows the employees of LUS reporting to an employee of a private entity. And that simply is not compatible with service and civil service, which is ultimately responsive to the public by working for LCG through the mayor-president. So.
Thank you, sir.
Might I address that?
Yes.
I'm not an attorney, but I reference our counsel, and I differ from Ms. Martell. Louisiana Supreme Court 2003 ruled unequivocally that privatization is allowed in conjunction with civil service. And I'll read, privatization